Revealed, how a billionaire's incredible love for a strawberry-selling single mom changed Everett. Sarah wiped the sweat from her brow as she arranged the plump, red strawberries on the table. Before the town stirred awake, she'd already harvested the best of her small patch, every berry a symbol of her labor, her dreams, and her struggles. Just another day at the stand, she whispered to herself, pushing aside her insecurities. The world around her felt like a distant memory of privilege compared to the relentless grind of her current existence. Every sold pint was a step toward a better life for her daughter, Lily, a life filled with opportunities she never had. As she set out the last batch of strawberries, her heart churned with an undeniable tension. Her thoughts wandered to the glances and whispers from neighbors who passed by, judging her humble means as though they defined her worth. Their eyes flicked from her modest stand to their own well-to-do lives, building an invisible wall. What would they say if they knew she had shared a moment with Jack, the billionaire who had come back to town? Their encounter was a secret escape, a chance to connect beyond societal roles. But doubts gnawed at her. Was she dreaming too much, reaching too high? Every interaction brought with it the weight of her past experiences, the echo of her parents' voices pushing her toward success, yet her fears shackled her thoughts. She hesitated, torn between wanting to nurture this unexpected bond and the crippling realization that she was mere straw against stone in his world. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the stand, the timely arrival of rumors about Jack's tumultuous past hit her like a thunderclap. Friends who once shared smiles now shared skeptical glances, their voices rising in a chorus of judgment. "He's not the kind of man we need in our lives," they would say, eyes narrowing as if fearing contamination from his wealth. Sarah felt the shackles of their critiques close in, tightening around her hopes like a vice. The isolation loomed, and she understood the risk of opening her heart to someone branded with disgrace. Sitting behind the stand with Lily, her daughter's youthful laughter felt like a balm against the swelling tides of worry. Yet, Sarah questioned the foundations of her emotions. Am I being foolish? She grappled internally. Could a life intertwined with Jack spell disaster? The thought of standing alone at the edge of her world, ostracized for daring to embrace something that felt so pure, filled her with dread. Then the turning point arrived with a rush of adrenaline. An event drew the townsfolk together, a chance to confront these fears publicly. Could she choose love despite the whispers? A moment hung in the air, heavy with possibility and judgment. Sarah stood paralyzed, emotions colliding. She could feel his presence looming, fear and necessity in equal measure. Would she risk everything she held dear, or allow fear to snuff out a flicker of hope? The air crackled with tension as Sarah faced her inner turmoil. The truth hung in the balance, waiting for her breath that would either induce liberation or despair. Everything hinged on her next move, and the choices before her promised to change everything if only she had the courage to act. The next morning brought with it a biting chill that nipped at Sarah's resolve. She trudged through her routine with a sense of heaviness weighing down each task. The strawberries sat like silent witnesses around her, their vibrant red hues contrasting the growing storm in her heart. As she stacked the cartons into neat columns, doubt surged again. Jack had left a mark on her spirit, igniting a dormant dream of a life that extended far beyond the confines of her strawberry stand. But that dream warred with the looming pressure from her neighbors, those who clutched their judgments like armor against anything that threatened their comfort. "What am I doing?" she whispered to the early morning stillness, a question that begged for an answer she couldn't grasp. Lily burst out of the small house, her laughter ringing clear and bright. Instinctively, Sarah's heart swelled, the simple joy of her daughter lit a spark deep within. But with it came the realization that Lily deserved a mother who believed in possibilities, not just limitations. Could she reshape her own narrative? The blood in her veins thrummed with both fear and an awakening adrenaline that nudged her toward a path she had always been too afraid to take. As the day unfolded, Sarah found herself drawn into conversation with a group of customers at the stand, an unexpected warmth enveloping her as they shared recipes and laughter. The connection felt invigorating, a reminder that her world could expand if only she let it. Yet, her mind drifted back to Jack, the self-made billionaire with a past cloaked in shadows. He was flawed, yes, but so was she. In sharing her vulnerabilities, would she not only face judgment but also carve out a space for growth? Amidst the laughter, a familiar figure stepped forward, pulling her from her reverie. It was Clara, her childhood friend, whose disapproving glare cut through the warmth like ice. "You really think hanging around him is a good idea?" she asked, her words heavy with condescension. The tension thickened, sharp and suffocating. As the crowd quieted, all eyes shifted to Sarah, awaiting her response. Faced with Clara's challenge, Sarah's instinct screamed for retreat. Yet there was a flicker deep within, a burgeoning resilience that pushed back against the impulse to hide. "He's just a man, Clara," she declared, swallowing the fear that threatened to seep into every word. "People change, even beyond what others think." The words hung in the air, a rebellious act against the confines of her past. For a heartbeat, she felt powerful, like an iron gate cracking open. The group shifted, some surprised, others nodding lightly in agreement, embers of support igniting in the shadows. Clara's expression morphed from contempt to incredulity, and she quickly turned away, her presence retreating like a fading storm cloud. In that moment, Sarah found a piece of herself not just as a mother, but as someone capable of standing her ground. As dusk crept in, she watched as twilight filtered through the trees, illuminating the stand in warm golden hues. The confines of her self-perception were beginning to dissolve, replaced by a desire to forge ahead. Perhaps this wasn't just about Jack, perhaps it was about her own journey of rediscovery. The mingling thoughts of connection with Jack and the empowerment she felt seeped into her awareness. The adolescent dreamer hiding inside her began to awaken. She might just have the strength to push through this wall of judgment, the hesitation to take a leap into the unknown. The stakes were higher than ever, and as she considered her next steps, a single question crystallized in her mind: what was she truly afraid of? Determined, Sarah resolved not to let fear dictate her life any longer. As she closed the stand under the watchful gaze of the stars, she knew she had a decision to make. The flicker of hope that had ignited in her heart would guide her. But Jack's world wasn't the only challenge she faced. Clara was right about one thing: entanglement with him could open her to a path fraught with peril. Yet, how often did fear obscure the truth of what was possible? The moment of reckoning drew near, all that remained was to seize it. She took a deep breath, steadying herself for what lay ahead. The leap would not come easy, it demanded courage and self-acceptance. Tomorrow, she would confront the truth of her feelings once and for all, even if it meant stepping outside the familiar boxes built by others. The sun dipped below the horizon, cloaking the town in darkness. But as Sarah cleared the last remnants of the day, the dawning possibility flickered, an invitation into a realm where her dreams and reality could begin to converge. Tomorrow would be the day she faced the undeniable truth she had avoided for too long. It was time to embrace the uncertainties that awaited her. Would she step boldly into that unknown, or would she remain trapped in a life defined by fear and others' perceptions? The morning sun broke through the horizon, casting a soft light over the farm, yet Sarah felt a tempest brewing within her. Today was more than just another day at the stand. It was an open door to transformation, a fork in the road that demanded she choose a direction. Lily's excited chatter filled the air as they prepared for the day ahead. Each moment seemed draped in potential, but Sarah lingered on the precipice of choice. She watched her daughter with a mix of pride and anxiety, realizing that the example she set now would ripple through Lily's future. Could she embody the courage she wanted her daughter to follow? Would they both emerge bright and whole, or would fear suffocate the possibilities before them? A light breeze whispered through the strawberry fields, teasing with the scent of ripe fruit, stirring within her a longing to do more than just sell strawberries. A conversation with Jack lingered in her mind, his vision of entrepreneurship igniting a fierce resolve within her. She had once stood in the shadows of her aspirations, afraid to chase the bright horizon he painted. What if she dared to step into the unknown, to flirt with a different kind of life? The routines of running a stand suddenly felt suffocating, each carton she stacked a reminder of everything she had yet to explore. While she prepared for the day, uncertainty gnawed at her core. Clenching the edge of the table, she took a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the weight of change pressing down upon her and yet wearing the armor of newfound determination. As the first couple of customers approached, a pivot began to occur within her. Their smiles and casual conversations ignited a sense of belonging that she had desperately craved. She began to offer more insights about her strawberries, infusing her dialogue with newfound enthusiasm. With each casual exchange, Sarah began to see flickers of her worth reflected in their eyes. She wasn't just a seller, she was also a storyteller, a purveyor of joy. "Did you know these strawberries are the sweetest in the county?" she said playfully, allowing herself to briefly escape into the role of a confident entrepreneur. The laughter shared among customers felt like a warm blanket, wrapping around her as she grew more assertive, her voice steadying. She found herself thinking of Jack, of how he had believed in her potential when she didn't believe in herself. But doubts crept in again as Clara appeared in the distance, her presence a looming storm cloud. The tightness in Sarah's chest swelled. Would this day still carry its promises if Clara unleashed her skepticism? As Clara approached, the comment Sarah had made last week echoed ominously, "People change." It became both a rallying cry and a haunting whisper. Sarah would have to confront Clara, a pivotal moment of confrontation that could either fortify Sarah's resolve or threaten to dismantle it. "Still chasing dreams that don't belong to you?" Clara's tone dripped with disdain, eyes scanning Sarah's setup as though she were judging a fragile porcelain piece. Immediately, a counter-statement rose to Sarah's lips, her heartbeat steadying with purpose. "Maybe I'm just finding the dreams that do belong to me," she countered, her voice barely above a whisper yet resonant. A visible pause hung in the air as Clara processed the response. In that tense moment, Sarah realized her hesitation was not only in her words but in the power of her convictions. What would happen if she poured her energy into crafting not just a strong business but a flourishing identity? Would Clara's disapproval matter if she cleared the fog of doubt and uncertainty? As Clara's disbelief seeped into the ground like a poison, Sarah felt emboldened. The lie that trapped her, the notion that she had to fit a mold defined by others, began to fracture. Maybe fear was not her enemy but rather the raw material for her fierce commitment to transform. With the standoff simmering in the air, something vibrated within Sarah's consciousness, a seed of determination blossoming irrepressibly. Today was not just about strawberries, it was an unfolding love story with herself, one of embracing the strength and ambition that currently lived quietly beneath the surface. Her thoughts wild, she turned to face Clara fully. "I'm done hiding," she proclaimed, her voice gaining volume as the words turned into a declaration. The electric shift in energy between them felt palpable, cradling the air with tension and anticipation. The moment of truth was spiraling close, pulling Sarah toward an unseen horizon. As Clara's expression shifted into surprise, the realization struck her this was no longer about proving Clara wrong, it was about proving herself right. What's it going to be? Sarah pondered internally, determination swelling within. This was her moment to forge a new path, and she would embrace every ounce of it. The confrontation, the choices, the fear, all of it now felt like a call to action. With a flick of courage, she ventured back toward her customers, her heart pounding with the thrill of possibility. She could feel the weight of hesitations trading places with a rising exhilaration. Would this day diverge into something life-changing, a daring leap toward an unrecognizable future? Or would the grip of familiarity tighten once more? As excitement surged, she glimpsed Jack's face in her mind, his unwavering belief urging her forward. The uncertainty loomed, but one thing was clear: she would no longer be standing alone in the shadows. Boldness awaited, and Sarah stepped forward, ready to seize her destiny and confront what lay ahead. Would she embrace the daunting venture that beckoned, or would hesitation seize her once again? The air buzzed with possibility as Sarah re-engaged with her customers, each interaction heightening her sense of purpose. No longer feeling like an imposter, she was transfixed by the idea that she was part of something bigger. As the morning unfolded, her confidence grew with every batch of strawberries sold, and the doubts that had plagued her began to recede like the morning mist. When a couple purchased a basket, they lingered to share anecdotes about their childhood summers spent on fruit farms. Sarah leaned in, captivated, encouraging them to share more. With every laugh and connection, she realized this wasn't just about selling strawberries, she was weaving a tapestry of memories around her product. The potential that flickered in her mind transformed into a burning flame, and she saw the farm as a vessel for stories that could take root and flourish in her community. "Can you believe that these strawberries are organic?" she exclaimed, noticing how their eyes widened with delight. "I'm so proud to say they were picked this morning, just for you." As her voice grew stronger, the reaction of the customers fueled her aspirations. Each smile reflected back to her, slowly reshaping her self-perception from a mere hawker of fruit to a burgeoning entrepreneur. Yet, through the joy came a shadow. Clara's scornful comments played on repeat in her mind, the sting of criticism holding a mirror against her ambitions. If she was to thrive, she knew she had to confront her fears. Her worth was not contingent on Clara's validation. Taking a deep breath, she retraced steps to her makeshift stand after a lively rush. The moment spun back to her confrontation with Clara. The stakes felt high. This wasn't just about defense against negativity but also a firm commitment to her evolving identity. What if, instead of deflecting Clara's jibes, she harnessed them as lessons? What if she could confront her past, allowing it to fortify her bones instead of weigh them down? The anger she felt needed rechanneling, transforming into resolve. Later that morning, Clara returned, this time with arms crossed and an expression set like concrete. "Still playing pretend, Sarah? You're not good enough to make a real business out of this." Instead of collapsing under the weight of these words, Sarah allowed herself a moment's pause. Her heart raced, but this time it wasn't fear, it was clarity. "I'm not pretending, Clara," she replied, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of newfound strength. "I'm evolving, and I won't let your doubts derail me. Watch me turn this stand into something that matters." The air thickened with tension as Clara's eyes widened in disbelief. An unexpected quiet emerged between them, allowing Sarah a fleeting moment to filter through her thoughts. She felt raw and exposed but also liberated. For the first time, she fully grasped her response was limitless. This back and forth wasn't simply about Clara's disdain, it was about claiming her right to exist fully, to create, and to pursue the life she envisioned. Sarah sensed a breakthrough. Could she turn this confrontation into a stepping stone, rather than a stumbling block? "I'm not afraid of hard work. Even you should know what it takes to chase your dreams," she said, the edge of vulnerability laced with authority. As the words passed through her lips, she felt a strange sense of pride swelling within her. This was about resilience, her story treasuring lessons of grit. Clara recoiled, tense energy crackling in the air. For every upward spiral, every victorious moment came the weight of another challenge. Would this moment of growth fracture the tenuous bond they shared? Or would it give them both the space to redefine what it meant to let go of the past? Sarah's heart trembled with anticipation. They stood at a crossroad, hers was one leading toward self-empowerment. But at what cost would such clarity come? Resolving to remain steadfast, she turned back to her customers, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. With each sale solidifying her commitment to this new path. She crafted plans not just for her stand, but for her own burgeoning landscape of dreams. How could she expand her offerings, perhaps even hold workshops on how to use strawberries in exotic dishes. Ideas sprouted like the vines she nurtured, fueling a burgeoning vision. As dusk began to drape over the sky, her heart raced with the weight of possibilities. Would the turmoil she felt lead to further confrontation, igniting the flames of determination within her? Or was it the catalyst for something more profound, something beyond her initial scope? A whisper of doubt tugged at her, reminding her that the road was porous and ever-winding. She had ignited her trajectory toward a future blossoming with adventures, yet lurking behind every prospect were shades of the past. The question simmered beneath her drive: was she ready to embrace them completely, with Clara's voice or not? Each decision stood poised to shape her narrative. As twilight fell, Sarah took a deep breath, strengthening the resolve forged through each challenge. Now was the time to take a step toward another crossroads that awaited how to truly step into her power. The sunlight faded, stretching long shadows across the ground, signaling the end of another fruitful day at the farm stand. Sarah stood behind her display, the remaining baskets of strawberries the only evidence of her hard work. Every sale this evening felt like a victory, but it was the encounter with Clara that spun her head into a whirlwind of reflection. Could this competition be the catalyst for her success? What if Clara's harsh words had stirred something deep inside her that longed to break free? Contemplating the nature of her relationship with Clara began to feel like less of an emotional burden and more of an intense negotiation between past experiences and future aspirations. The breeze picked up slightly, carrying refreshing scents of earth and ripe fruit. But her mind danced with the possibilities of her next steps. Perhaps, she mused, to truly evolve, she needed to distance herself from Clara's criticisms and redefine her business on her own terms. The workshop's idea was just the tip of the iceberg. What if she launched a series of community events? A strawberry day to gather local enthusiasts for a celebration of warmth, flavors, and nostalgia, an event her customers could cherish. At that moment, a thought struck her like a lightning bolt: she could chronicle her journey, turning her daily victories and challenges into an online blog that would not only market her business but also invite others to witness her growth process. Other sellers might share her experience of parenthood, of facing critics, and of discovering strength from within. Envisioning the blog materialized into palpable excitement. She would weave personal stories about her journey alongside strawberry recipes and tips, creating a narrative that connected with her audience on a deeper level. The thought swelled within her, defining a path forward that felt electric. Everything she had experienced, every doubt and hope from Clara, every laugh exchanged with customers, would fuel this new venture. Yet, a small pang of insecurity crept in. Would anyone want to read her words? Would those very customers who delighted in her strawberries care about her personal tales? As she battled the lingering doubts, Sarah gripped her notebook, restless fingers tapping along the cover as she computed the risks involved in sharing her voice. The blog would make her vulnerable. It would crystallize her everyday life, private challenges now public. But wasn't that the point? The stories behind the strawberries, the unwavering commitment to turn adversity into strength, could resonate with so many. Her heart raced with the weight of this realization. Her journey was inherently tied to the community around her, and perhaps through this blog, she could inspire strength in others to confront their own Clara boxes they felt confined within. Drawing a breath, she could almost sense the keyboard beneath her fingertips, ready for stories to come forth and splash onto the screen. If she could use her personal experience to empower others, she wouldn't just share the art of growing strawberries, she'd cultivate a movement. With renewed determination, Sarah knew she couldn't allow fear to cast shadows on her initiatives. It was time to take calculated risks. Her voice needed to be heard. As she packed up her stand for the night, she steadfastly promised herself to launch that blog within the week, a vow shimmering with internal resolve. But before she could catch her breath, her phone vibrated with an unexpected message. Clara's name lit up the screen. Sarah hesitated, panic blooming in her chest. What did Clara want now? Would this be another round of undermining remarks? Or could this possibly lead to an unexpected twist in their relationship? The crossroads loomed large before her, the future she was crafting versus a past that wouldn't fade easily. Feeling the tension bubble beneath the surface, Sarah stared at the message, contemplating her next move. Would she rise to meet Clara's call and reshape the narrative, or distance herself entirely from this ongoing conflict? In that second, a rush of clarity enveloped her. It was time to decide. Sarah's heart raced as she processed Clara's message. The world around her dimmed, the fading light giving way to the deepening colors of twilight. The phone felt heavier in her hands, a catalyst for the change she both feared and craved. Would engaging with Clara mean surrendering to past toxicity, or could it turn into an opportunity for growth? Her thoughts were a chaotic symphony of doubt and anticipation, each note bending towards the resolution of a pivotal moment. She took a deep breath to steady the tremors within her, then opened the message. Clara, in her bold way, had extended an olive branch, suggesting they meet for coffee to discuss business in which Sarah might finally articulate her burgeoning ideas. As anxiety mingled with excitement, Sarah's mind dove into a vortex of possibilities. This could be the chance to redefine boundaries. She didn't just want to respond to Clara, she longed to challenge their dynamic. Determined to frame this dialogue within a context of empowerment, Sarah crafted her response with meticulous care. She would approach their meeting as a chance to assert her vision, to show Clara that she was not only capable but also deserving of respect in her entrepreneurial journey. With each keystroke, she infused her message with purpose and invitation to collaborate, but also an unspoken agreement that she would no longer be a silent participant in their interactions. After sending the reply, she shut her eyes, envisioning the conversation ahead. What if Clara dismissed her ideas again? Could she withstand that? Yet, the thought of submitting to insecurity felt less inviting than standing her ground. If she could share her aspirations with the world through her blog, why not Clara? She was morphing from a passive receiver of criticism to an architect of her narrative. As the evening drew on, the quiet of the farm surrounded her. She continued to mentally sketch out her blog, her remaining inventory of strawberries an inspiring backdrop. Each fruit bore witness to the struggle that had brought her here. It was more than just a product, it was a story, a heartbeat of her journey. She considered giving her blog a name that honored her roots and aspirations. Perhaps something like Strawberry Insights? It would symbolize both her connection to her craft and her burgeoning voice. Fueled by this vision, she grabbed her notebook and began jotting down ideas, her pen moving frantically across the pages. The thrill of creativity entwined with the pursuit of self-assertion propelled her towards clarity. She detailed the core of her blog, personal anecdotes of overcoming adversity, practical growing tips, and reflections that hinted at deeper struggles. Each post would serve as a stepping stone for others navigating tumultuous narratives, thus transforming her personal experiences into shared wisdom. But there was that familiar pang again. What would Clara think of it? Would she mock her aspirations, or would this initiative challenge their relationship entirely? Perhaps this was the key moment where Sarah could shift from being a target for criticism into a beacon of determination. The dawn of a new possibility broke as she faced the crossroads of her life. Would she meet Clara and reaffirm her place in her own story, or could she prepare for battle and demonstrate her rightful evolution? Fear lingered as an undercurrent, but the excitement of the unknown electrified her spirit. The next morning, Sarah stood before her mirror. She dressed with a sense of purpose, grounding herself in the belief that she was more than her struggles. Today was not only about the meeting with Clara, it would also be the day she solidified her commitment to herself and her vision. As she made her way to the coffee shop, anticipation crackling in the air around her, a new question surfaced. Could she truly articulate her needs and boundaries? Was she ready to confront vulnerability for the sake of growth? The stakes felt higher than ever, and yet, she was fully aware that the time for transformation was now. As she entered the cafe, the familiar hum of conversations flooded her senses, mingling with her racing thoughts. She spotted Clara at a corner table, a mixture of determination and apprehension settling in her stomach. This was it. The moment she had both longed for and dreaded. Would she rise to meet her challenge, or falter beneath the weight of uncertainty? The door was closing behind her, ushering her into what would be the defining conversation of her journey, yet she felt an unyielding determination pulse through her. Everything had led to this moment. Engaging with Clara wasn't just about business, it was about asserting her space in the world, a world she was ready to claim. What she didn't realize, however, was that this conversation would lead to unexpected revelations that would challenge her new path altogether. Sarah took a tentative step forward, her heart thumping against her ribcage like a frantic drummer. As she approached Clara's table, memories of their fraught history washed over her. The flashbacks of harsh words and dismissive glances competed with her newly forged resolve, creating a push and pull within her. Clara's eyes darted from her phone to meet Sarah's gaze, and for a moment, the world around them blurred into an endless hum. Sarah noticed the slight frown tugging at Clara's lips. Was it displeasure or surprise? Gathering herself, Sarah pulled out the chair opposite Clara and sat, forcing a smile to mask her nervousness. "Thanks for meeting with me," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the unease churning inside. "Of course," Clara replied, though her tone held a hint of skepticism. "I was curious about your ideas." This was the moment where the dynamic could be reshaped. Taking a deep breath, Sarah dug into her notebook. As she opened it, her thoughts danced between doubt and determination. This was her chance to assert her vision, a chance to reframe their relationship. She began by sharing her ideas for the blog, how she planned to intertwine personal and practical advice, creating a space that resonated with authenticity. Clara raised an eyebrow, silence draping over the table like a heavy curtain. "Interesting concept, but are you sure it can compete with everything else out there?" The word struck like a punch. For a fraction of a second, Sarah felt her confidence wobble. She hesitated, contemplating the usual retreat her heart suggested. Instead, she leaned forward. "I believe I have a unique story to tell, Clara. Along with growing strawberries, I want to show others they're not alone in their struggles." Clara's expression shifted, curiosity flickering in her gaze. "So you're aiming for a more personal touch? That could attract a different audience." Sarah found her voice rising. "Exactly. It's not just about selling strawberries, it's about embracing challenges and sharing what I've learned along the way. If I can help just one person feel seen, it would mean everything." The room seemed to vibrate with an odd energy as Clara studied her, searching for something beneath the surface. Sarah felt the urge to shrink back, yet the fire within her pushed her to keep going. "Have you thought of collaborating with someone more established?" Clara suggested, her voice softer this time. "Your ideas could benefit from a robust platform." The implication hung heavy in the air. Was Clara proposing a genuine opportunity or veiling disdain behind a veneer of support? Sarah felt the weight of the suggestion turn into a fork in her path. If she accepted collaboration with Clara, would she be sacrificing her independence, her vision? Parallel to this was the fear of rejection, but now, she was acutely aware that the stakes had to be higher for her to grow. "I appreciate the thought, Clara," she said with measured calm. "However, this vision is mine. I want to cultivate my voice. I need it to reflect who I am entirely." Clara's eyes flared with something Sarah couldn't label, before settling back into neutrality. "Fair enough. Just be prepared for the challenges of standing alone." "I'm ready for those challenges," Sarah declared, her voice unwavering. A rush of determination flooded through her veins. Their conversation unfurled beyond the realm of business, touching on aspects of vulnerability, resilience, and even the subtle layers of their history. For the first time, Sarah saw Clara not just as a rival but as a fellow wanderer in a landscape imperfectly drawn with dreams and fears. As they parted ways, Sarah felt lighter, her steps purposeful yet filled with uncertainty about the true path ahead. Clara's demeanor had shifted slightly, a real acknowledgement lingering in the air between them, but there was still a shadow of skepticism that she'd have to confront in the future. Back at the farm, Sarah opened her notebook, filled with fresh ideas sparked by their discussion. Yet a sense of foreboding lingered, intertwining with the exhilaration of her newfound creativity. Did she truly have what it took to carve out a space in a world that often overlooked voices like hers? As dusk took over the horizon, her heart began to steady. Strength, she realized, wasn't rooted in the absence of fear, it lived beside it. She set her pen to the page with a flurry of excitement, heightened by the idea that her journey was only beginning. But within her, a nagging thought whispered, what repercussions could this newfound independence unleash? The tension between her aspiration and the inevitable headwinds danced ominously in the shadows. The moment had arrived to step fully into her narrative, but at what cost? In that quiet hour, Sarah understood, the road ahead was still cloaked in uncertainty, demanding exploration. The next morning, Sarah awoke with thoughts still swirling from her encounter with Clara. The dawn light crept through her bedroom window, illuminating the crumpled pages of her notebook sprawled on the desk, each line a testament to the emotions battling within her. She brewed a pot of coffee, the strong aroma filling the tiny kitchen, grounding her in the moment. Today was not just another day, it was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, a deliberate step toward amplifying her voice. An idea sparked in her mind: she would begin a series of video diaries, documenting her journey, not just about farming or selling strawberries, but about her evolution as a person. This commitment to uncovering her authenticity felt risky, but the prospect of putting herself out there filled her with a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. She set up her phone on a makeshift tripod, a stack of books that held her notes. Sitting in front of the camera felt like opening a window into her soul. After a few awkward starts, Sarah found her rhythm, sharing snippets of her life and the hurdles she faced. As she spoke about her vision for the blog and the emotions tied to her journey, there was something oddly cathartic about verbalizing her struggles. However, as the recording continued, the familiar waves of self-doubt crashed over her. What if no one watched? What if she fell flat? But as the sun streamed through the window, illuminating her resolve, she reminded herself of the power of vulnerability. If she could embrace her fears, perhaps others would recognize their own stories within hers. Later that afternoon, while sorting strawberries for the market, the clamor of her internal dialogue persisted. What if Clara was right about the difficulties ahead? What if the world was indeed oversaturated with voices? Would hers resonate at all? It was a powerful hesitation that pulled at her productivity, spurred by the pressure she placed on herself. Deciding to conquer that anxiety, Sarah took to social media, crafting a post about her ambitions. Inviting her peers into her process felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As she hit post, the uncertainty loomed larger in her mind, each notification signaled a mixture of support and anxiety. The real test loomed: could she withstand the critiques that might accompany her quest for visibility? To combat her worry, she spent the next few hours tending to the garden, the earthy scent of strawberries grounding her once more. It reminded her of simpler times, the raw joy of growing something tangible. Each plant, a reflection of her own growth after all, the strawberries had thrived despite the unpredictable weather and pests. She recalled the resilience they demonstrated, leading her to ponder: if nature could forge ahead with such tenacity, wasn't she capable of the same? Later, she returned to her notebook, scribbling down her musings: the triumphs of nature, the light that broke through after darkest hours. These reflections transformed into potential blog posts. But in the depths of her mind, another question lingered. What would success look like for her? Was it in the number of readers, the engagement, or perhaps, in the fulfillment of being authentic? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange hue across the field, Sarah felt a renewed sense of clarity. She needed to set clear goals but also accept that the path to achieving them wouldn't be linear. The upcoming days would be filled with opportunities and challenges, each promising to further test her resolve. That evening, she reviewed the video footage she had recorded, cringing at moments but also feeling a spark of pride creep up. She decided right there and then to upload the video diary, fearful but ready to embrace whatever came next. Just as she was about to hit the final upload button, a message notification popped up on her phone. It was Clara, wanting to meet again. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What did Clara want this time? The conflation of anticipation and dread echoed in her chest as she evaluated her next move. Did Clara seek to challenge her vision again or offer collaboration? Either way, clarity of purpose was crucial, and the stakes felt higher than before. The moment of truth was closing in, pulling Sarah toward an inevitable confrontation. Would she harness this opportunity to solidify her path or yield to doubt? The answer loomed larger with each passing moment, creating a pulsing tension within her. Sarah's heart raced as she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the message that had interrupted her moment of courage. Clara. The name felt weighty, like a stone in her stomach. In her mind, contradictory visuals of the past few days collided, confident declarations of independence, yet on the brink of reliance on others for validation. She had worked tirelessly, unpacking the emotional cargo that came with her dreams and fears, and now one message threatened to undo it all. Thoughts swirled as she weighed the potential meanings behind Clara's request. Did she come back as a mentor or as a threat? Would this meeting be about collaboration, or would it be another wave of skepticism crashing down on her budding resilience? Resolving to take control of the situation, Sarah flipped open her notebook. With a sense of urgency, she scribbled a list of topics she felt strong about discussing. Her recent achievements, goals for her blog, and the foundations of her vision formed the backbone of her defense. But buried in the margins was a lingering fear: if Clara dug deep enough, would she uncover insecurities that Sarah herself was still grappling with? Determined not to let doubt dictate her response, she replied, suggesting they meet at a cafe nearby. As she hit send, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her. It was time to confront the uncertainty, and perhaps, to stand firm in her convictions. The next morning, she prepared meticulously. A simple outfit, a well-worn denim jacket stylishly paired with boots she adored, felt just right, embodying both authenticity and approachability. As she stood before the mirror, she practiced her expressions, willing herself to project confidence even amidst her doubts. At the cafe, the air was rich with the scent of freshly ground coffee, but the calm ambience did little to soothe the whirlwind within her. Seated at a small table by the window, she drummed her fingers against the wood, anxiously awaiting Clara's arrival. Thoughts teetered between excitement and dread, past conversations played in her mind like a looping film, each frame heightening her insecurity. When Clara walked in, there was an immediate shift in the atmosphere. She radiated a polished confidence that momentarily intimidated Sarah. Clara waved, a broad smile replacing the familiarity of their last encounter, but Sarah could not ignore the brittle edges beneath the surface. Everything about Clara suggested a poised elegance, her air of authority echoing throughout the cafe. As they exchanged greetings, Sarah felt the weight of expectations pressing heavily on her shoulders. Deep breaths steadied her resolve. She refused to let intimidation douse her flame. Settling across from Clara, an unspoken challenge hung between them as if both were testing the waters. "So, how has the journey been treating you?" Clara asked, her tone effortlessly casual, yet sharp enough to cut through the momentary calm. In that question lay layers of assessment, probing for weakness and determination alike. Sarah took a breath before responding. "I've published my first video diary," she began, striving to keep her voice steady, "and I'm diving deep into my writing. It feels liberating to capture my journey, not just as a farmer but as a person discovering my voice." As she spoke, the murmur of her excitement filled the spaces between her words, challenging the rising tide of her fears. Clara listened, a glimmer of intrigue lighting her eyes. Perhaps she had underestimated Sarah? But then came the critical moment, the questions Sarah had dreaded. "And you think sharing your story will make a difference? There are countless voices fighting for attention in this digital age." The question hit like a punch to the gut. A wave of uncertainty flooded over Sarah, but before she could let the doubt seep in, she remembered her strawberries, each one distinct, vibrant, fighting for sunlight. Yes, she replied, conviction igniting within her. If I'm authentic, there will always be a space for my story. I believe that genuine connection surpasses noise. Clara raised an eyebrow, seemingly impressed, and leaned in closer. I see potential here. But remember, authenticity can be a double-edged sword. What if exposing your vulnerabilities leads to backlash? The words resonated deeply, nudging Sarah into a critical internal dialogue. Facing criticism was a reality she couldn't ignore. How much of her story was truly hers to share? And what were the risks involved, even if her convictions were strong? As the conversation continued, they fluctuated between camaraderie and challenge. Sarah wasn't sure if she was winning, but she was undeniably evolving. With each exchange, she plumbed the depths of her own convictions and fears, leaving her with an unexpected sense of purpose. She hadn't merely prepared for this meeting, she was steeping herself in identity. Just as the dialogue began to turn in her favor, Clara posed one final question, a clarion call echoing in Sarah's mind. What is your endgame, Sarah? The moment stretched. A blank canvas of endless possibilities and daunting uncertainty lay before her, drawing out her silent epiphany of purpose. What was her bold vision, really? Determined to find clarity as the stakes heightened, Sarah's response simmered on the edge of articulation. The door to self-discovery and transformative resolve beckoned, enticing her to step through it and embrace the challenge. But would her answer solidify her path, or send her tumbling back into self-doubt? The gathering storm of revelation loomed, the answer both tantalizing and terrifying, waiting to unfold. Sarah sat across from Clara, her mind racing as she grappled with the question that hung heavily in the air. What is your endgame, Sarah? It felt like she was standing at the precipice of a cliff, ready to leap, but first needed the clarity of vision to justify her jump. Taking a deep breath, she focused on the warmth radiating from the sunlit cafe, reminding herself of the purpose behind her journey. My endgame, she started, her voice steadying as confidence surged within her, is to create a community around shared experiences through my strawberries, my story, and the journey of courage I believe we all possess. I want to inspire others to confront their own fears and authentic voices. Clara's brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. That's a noble ambition, but are you prepared for the backlash? Being vulnerable can turn people against you. I am, Sarah affirmed, urgency coloring her tone. I know not everyone will welcome my honesty, but isn't that part of the authenticity I seek? It's not just about the likes or shares, it's about genuine connection. I've spent too long hiding from my truth. As she spoke, Sarah felt a transformative wave wash over her, not just within her words but also in her firm resolve. Each syllable solidified her purpose, morphing underlying insecurities into a foundation of strength. Vulnerability, she realized, was not a weakness, it was the very key to her empowerment. Clara leaned back, a thoughtful look painting her features. Admitting those truths is the first step toward growth, but it's the execution that matters. How do you plan to cultivate visibility in this competitive landscape? Instead of crumbling at the challenge, Sarah's heart raced with exhilaration. I'll focus on organic engagement. My videos, my writing, my strawberries all woven together, allowing my audience to witness my evolution, not just as a seller but as someone who embraces the messiness of life. Growing from challenges instead of merely selling strawberries, Clara repeated, pausing as if assessing the weight of the words. That's ambitious. However, understanding your audience is crucial. It's about creating a brand while remaining true to what you represent. A feeling of camaraderie blossomed unexpectedly. Clara wasn't just the naysayer anymore, she was being challenged to confront her reservations too. This was not merely a conversation about business strategies, it was a dialogue of growth and mutual evolution. What if you became a local advocate for farming and mental wellness? Connecting your craft with the community could elevate your storytelling, Clara suggested, her tone carrying the gravity of validity. Not only are you sharing your journey, but you're also offering others a space to do the same. Sarah felt the spark of inspiration, her mind racing. That's it. Strawberry-themed workshops for families. Together we can celebrate our stories while learning. It could even expand into charitable initiatives, where a portion of my profits supports local mental health organizations. The ideas cascaded, each suggestion igniting new possibilities. Clara's gaze softened with hints of approval as Sarah elaborated. The prospect of creating a bridge between her business and the community drew clearer images of success, resonating with her authentic self. As their conversation continued, the air transformed into a symphony of collaboration. Clara started sharing resources that could help elevate Sarah's brand, suggesting local influencers who could amplify her organic reach through their networks. Instead of feeling intimidated, Sarah felt anticipation surge through her veins like a rush of aquamarine tides. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah immersed herself in the preparations for her blog and the workshops she envisioned. Every step she took filled her spirit with renewed confidence. She shared her struggles on her platform unfiltered, inviting others into her world. The response was overwhelming. People from her community chimed in, resonating with her honesty, and celebrating the growth she showcased. But it wasn't just about expanding her business, it became about redefining her realm of influence. The workshops drew interest, connecting people around themes of resilience and hope, where laughter mingled with shared stories. The passion painted each corner of these events, anew with ever-blooming vigor that brought Sarah's story full circle. Later, she found herself looking back on her conversations with Clara, recognizing the subtle shift into camaraderie. Their relationship evolved into a mentorship cultivated through challenges and respect. In the haze of uncertainty, Sarah had dared to confront her fears, leading to a partnership that uplifted them both. As the first workshop approached, an infectious thrill coursed through her. She had stepped out of the shadows, transformed her narrative, and built a burgeoning community that reflected her journey and vision. Wandering through her strawberry patch, she felt the weight of old doubts unfurling in the sunlight, the vibrant hues echoing the vibrant life she had begun to build. What lay ahead no longer felt daunting. Sarah stood firm, anchored in her authenticity, a sense of empowerment enveloping her that surged higher every day. She understood her worth as a mother, a businesswoman, and above all, a storyteller boundless in spirit. With each strawberry picked and every laugh shared, Sarah knew she had conquered not just her fears but had paved a path toward legacy, meaningful impact, and personal fulfillment. Today marked not only the celebration of sweet fruits but also the sweet triumph of life woven with tenacity. This was the defining moment where dreams and reality converged, illuminating a journey that would resonate with every person willing to embrace their authentic selves. People would feel seen, understood, and perhaps even find the courage to step into their own truth, just as Sarah had. The story had come full circle, intertwining the past with an exquisite future. Now, it was time to share it with the world, to invite everyone along for the journey of growth, reminding them fear is simply the raw material for transformation. So, let us seize this moment together. You need to subscribe now to continue witnessing these remarkable stories of emotional overcoming. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. We're building something amazing together. Comment below your thoughts on this ending. Did Sarah inspire you? What challenges are you facing on your own journey? And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to embrace their true selves. Together, let us spread the message of authenticity and growth.